Hello students, welcome to Rhythm classes, and today we are going to discuss about reproduction in flowering plants. So first of all, let's discuss about reproduction. Re and production. It is made up of two words. One is re and production. Re means again and production means to produce. So why we are calling it as again to reproduce? What we are producing again? We are producing again the same species. It means that if it is a rose, then after reproduction there will be a rose offspring. If it is a human, after reproduction there will be a human offspring only. So we are calling it reproduction because we are producing the same species again. Okay, now let's talk about reproduction in flowering plants. If we are talking about flowering plants, that means we are talking about angiosperms. Angiosperms are the flowering plants. And the reproductive organ is flower. Let's talk about flower, structure of the flower. Flower has aesthetic value also, religious value also, emotional values also. We express our emotions through the flowers. We offer flowers to the god. So it have different values, but all except that it is an reproductive organ. Without flower, reproduction is not possible. So let's see the structure of the flower first. This is thalamus. What it is? Thalamus, the base of the flower, where all the parts of the flower are attached. And this is female reproductive part, and it is composed of three parts. First one is stigma. It is the receiving part where the pollen grains will be received. This is the style. This is tube-like structure, and this is ovary, where the ovules are present. Then we have male reproductive part. It also have two parts. One is filament and another one is bilobed anther. Together, stigma, style and ovary is called gynoecium, and anther and filament together called androecium. Then बच्चे, we have the colorful petals, also called as corolla. These are the colorful petals. These are petals. And then we have green color leaves called as sepals or calyx. The petals are also called as corolla, and sepals are also called as calyx. That are non-necessary parts of the flower because they do not take part in reproduction. Gynoecium is also called as pistil, the female reproductive part, and androecium is also called as stamen, the male reproductive part. Now let's talk about the male reproductive part in detail, that is this one, androecium. This end is called as proximal end. And this end is called as distal end. On the distal end, beta, bilobed anther is present. And proximal end, it is attached to the thalamus. How we will remember that which part is attached to the thalamus? कैसे याद रखेंगे बेटा? हमारा favorite period कौन सा होता है? PT period, है ना? This is trick to remember. The PT period, that proximal end is attached to thalamus. Now when we cut this bilobed part, okay, when we cut this bilobed part transversely, that is TS of anther, what we see inside, when I'll cut it, उसको कट करेंगे और ऊपर से देखेंगे तो हमें अंदर क्या दिखाई देगा. Let's talk about that. We will see a structure like this, but this is connective. These two bilobes are attached with the connective tissue and it is shown here, that is connective, and we have four layers inside the anther. First one is epidermis, the outermost layer. The second one is endothecium. Then we have beta middle layer, this is the middle layer, and the tapetum and the sporangious tissue. The epidermis and endothecium are the outermost two layers. They help in dehiscence of anther. When the anther will get mature, okay, जब mature हो जाएगा anther, जब pollen grains को release होना होगा, तो कौन सी layers rupture करेंगी? The ruptured layer will be the epidermis and the endothecium. This middle layer is present in several layers like 1, 2, 3, depending upon anther to anther, they are in several 2 to 3 layers are present, okay, and these layers provide protection. ये किसे प्रोटेक्शन प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं बेटा? स्पोरेंजियस टिश्यू को प्रोटेक्शन प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं. एंड द इनर मोस्ट लेयर, ओके, जो इनर मोस्ट लेयर है, दैट इज tapetum. It provides nourishment. ये किसे नरिशमेंट प्रोवाइड कर रहा है बेटा? स्पोरेंजियस टिश्यू को नरिशमेंट प्रोवाइड कर रहा है. स्पोरेंजियस टिश्यू को नरिशमेंट प्रोवाइड कर रहा है. बेटा ये जब हम बाइलोब्ड एंथर को ऐसे कट करते हैं तो ये हमें 4 क्वाड्रेंट्स दिखते हैं. दीज 4 क्वाड्रेंट्स आर कॉल्ड एज थिका. दे आर कॉल्ड एज थिका. तो एक एंथर की में बात करें तो 2 lobes हैं एंड 4 थिकास हैं. दे आर ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज माइक्रोस्पोरेंजिया. तो एक एंथर के अंदर बेटा 4 माइक्रोस्पोरेंजियाज हैं. Is this thing clear? Now beta, this was all about young anther. जब एंथर के अंदर पोलन ग्रेन्स नहीं बने हैं तब हमारा एंथर कैसा दिखाई देता है. नाउ लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द मैच्योर एंथर. जब हमारे पोलन ग्रेन्स बन चुके हैं, द मैच्योर एंथर्स लुक लाइक दिस. मैंने आपको बताया था बाहर वाली 2 लेयर्स, दैट इज एपिडर्मिस एंड एंडोथीशियम. इनका क्या काम होगा? ये रप्चर कर जाएंगी. रप्चर कर गई हैं. सी, these 2 layers are ruptured from here and the pollen grains are releasing. The middle layer and the tapetum will get dissolved. The middle layer and tapetum, they will get dissolved and the tapetum will be providing the nourishment. और जो बेटा अंदर स्पोरेंजियस टिश्यू प्रेजेंट था, यहाँ पे जो स्पोरेंजियस टिश्यू प्रेजेंट था बच्चे, दैट इज कन्वर्टेड इनटू द पोलन ग्रेन्स एंड दिस इज रिलीज ऑफ द पोलन ग्रेन्स फ्रॉम द मैच्योर एंथर. इज दिस थिंग क्लियर? शुड वी मूव फॉरवर्ड? अब हमें बेटा देखना है जो बीच का स्पोरेंजियस टिश्यू है, ठीक है, जो स्पोरेंजियस टिश्यू है वो पोलन ग्रेन्स में कैसे कन्वर्ट हो रहा है. हाउ इट इज गेटिंग कन्वर्टेड इनटू पोलन ग्रेन्स. बेटा जो स्पोरेंजियस टिश्यू है, ओके, पोलन ग्रेन्स में उसका कन्वर्ट होना, द फॉर्मेशन ऑफ माइक्रोस्पोर्स इनसाइड द माइक्रोस्पोरेंजियम और द पोलन सेक बाय meiotic division is called as microsporogenesis. Pollen grains का बनना from microsporangium tissue is called as microsporogenesis. अब बेटा जो अंदर का टिश्यू है माइक्रोस्पोरेंजियस है, ठीक है, जो टिश्यू था that will is a germ tissue. There are germ cells. Germ cells are those cells which will be converted into the gametes. So this microsporangious tissue is 2n. ये क्या है बच्चे? 2n है. बिकॉज इसमें मियोटिक डिवीजन होनी है और गैमीट बनना है, तो इट इज 2n. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल दे विल इंक्रीज इन नंबर. ओके, दे विल गो अंडर द माइटोसिस and they will get increased in the number. Now these increase in number cells will act as pollen mother cell. They will act as pollen mother cells till they are 2n. Because mitosis हुई है तो there will be no reduction, 2n will remain 2n. Now beta, this PMC, pollen mother cell, will undergo meiosis. After meiosis, how many daughter cells will be formed? The 4 daughter cells will be formed, and these 4 daughter cells are called as microspore tetrad. Microspore tetrad. Now this microspore tetrad is N. Each cell is N. The reduction has taken place. The each cell is N. Okay, and this microspore tetrad N now will further go into asymmetrical mitosis. Asymmetrical mitosis. इसके अंदर बेटा asymmetrical mitosis होगी. asymmetrical mitosis होगी means दो unequal cells बनेंगे. पहले बेटा vacuoles form हो जाएंगे. Then there will be asymmetrical spindle formation. And this is the asymmetrical spindle formation. So you remember this thing that there is a asymmetrical mitosis take place. And then beta, these will convert it into two unequal cells, asymmetrical cells, this one and this one. Beta, this cell is called as generative cell. The smaller cell is called as generative cell, and the bigger cell is called as vegetative cell. This is the mature pollen grain. But this pollen grain also have two layers, okay? Two layers. The inner layer is called as intine, and the outer layer is the hardest layer, and it is called as exine. The inner layer is intine and this is exine. Exine is the hardest layer which is not digested by any enzyme. So there is a gap in the exine, small gap, that act as germ pore. This germ pore is the place from where the pollen tube will germinate. From where the pollen tube will germinate. And this germ pole is present near the vegetative cell because the pollen tube germinates from the vegetative cell and generative cells goes to the female reproductive system and act as a gamete Beta, in 60% of the angiosperms, the pollen grain is released into two cell stage, जो अभी हमने बात किया, this generative and vegetative cell. But in the 40% of the angiosperms, beta, it is released into three cell stage and the generative cells goes under mitosis. This is three cell stage. This was all about the male reproductive part. Now we are going to talk about the female reproductive part of the flower. The ovules are present in the ovary. This is the stigma. Receiving part. It will receive the pollen grains. इसके ऊपर यहाँ pollen grains आएंगे और अगर pollen grains recognize कर लेते हैं कि yes they are from the same species, stigma recognizes the pollen grain कि हाँ जी ये तो same species से हैं, तो हम जानकार को क्या करते हैं, घर के अंदर बुला लेते हैं। अगर वो रिकॉग्निशन हो जाती है तो बेटा यहाँ से पोलन ट्यूब फॉर्म होके जो मेल रिप्रोडक्ट गैमीट है वो किसके अंदर आ जाएगा, ओव्यूल के अंदर आ जाएगा, ओवरी के अंदर आ जाएगा। और ओवरी के अंदर कौन प्रेजेंट है बेटा, ओव्यूल्स। और दिस इज स्टाइल, it will give the space to the pollen tube to come inside and reaches to the ovule. Stigma, style and ovary, we have the reproductive, female reproductive part. Now beta, in ovule, okay, we talk about the ovule. Ovule के अंदर बेटा हमारे क्या प्रेजेंट है, मदर सेल्स प्रेजेंट हैं। कौन सी सेल्स प्रेजेंट है, मदर सेल्स प्रेजेंट है, which will undergo the meiosis and the form female gamete, which will form the, this is the structure of the ovule. Okay, this is the anatropous ovule. We have to do the structure, that is anatropous ovule structure. This end is called as bicche chalazal end. This end is called as chalazal end, and this is known as micropyle end. And from the micropyle end beta, pollen tube enters into the ovule. These two layers are the layers of the ovule, the outer layers of the ovule known as inner intubement. अंदर वाली लेयर को क्या कहेंगे, inner intubement, and the outer intubement is the outer layer. And this hilum is the portion from where it is attached to the ovary. Hilum is the portion from where the ovule is attached to the ovary. Okay, and this is the embryo sac. This is the embryo sac, and in embryo sac beta, the tissues are present, the mother cells are present, which will converted into the female gamete, which will be converted into the female gamete. Is this thing clear? Now beta, these mother cells, these mother cells these mother cells, the mega mother cells MMC, will be get converted into the female gamete, and in next class we will see how these are converted into female gamete, what the changes take place. Thank you.